Math can look confusing, especially when everything is mixed together. But what if we could make it simple, clear, and easy to understand? Welcome to the world of simplifying algebraic expressions, where we learn how to combine like terms and make math easier than ever. Let's join me as we explore how to simplify algebra step by step. Hi everyone, I'm Avatar Adeesha. Today we're making algebra fun, and now I'm excited to welcome the real Adeesha to start the lesson. And now let's take it away for the main lesson.
Hello everyone, my name is Adeesha and welcome to Learn with Adeesha. In this video, since we finally covered Unit 1 Number 1, we're moving on to Unit 1 Algebra 1, which I'm sure many of you might know from your grade 7 or grade 8 times. This is actually a very simple topic, involving only one element of the incredible area of maths that we call algebra: simplifying. This one word will make up the sentence or basis of basically everything that you're gonna learn here, because nearly every single algebra question that you have in your exams will include this one word or this one process. So without further ado, let's get started with our simplest form of simplification, which is just simplifying algebraic expressions. So basically, you need to know a couple things. First of all, what is a variable? Like for example, you might have seen the square root of a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. But have you ever wondered what these letters represent? I mean, the first time I saw this, I was screaming internally, this is math. Why are there no numbers? Why are there letters? Well, these letters are supposed to represent numbers, sort of, because these letters that we call variables can vary in value. That's what gives them their name. And using that information, we can then get the fact that variables represent every possible number. Well, in a range if given. For example, let me say that the value of a must be greater than 5. So a, this variable a, can only represent any number that's greater than 5, be it 5.00001 or 9, or let's say even a Google. Any number that's greater than 5. We'll cover these in the topic of inequalities and how to solve them. But for now, all that you have to know is that variables like a, b, or c, which are usually denoted by letters or symbols such as theta for an angle, are usually going to be able to vary with any number, be it positive, negative, real, or imaginary. It can be any single number. You might be wondering, what is an imaginary number? We'll get to that later, but all you have to know is that variables can represent any single number, like any one. There is no limit, unless there is. Okay, so next up is the topic of like and unlike terms. Basically, let me put this simply. If we have a term x, mind you, any number or a letter or variable or constant even is called a term. Okay, so let's say that this term x is being added to another term 3x. Now what does 3x even mean? 3x, well, that doesn't really give us anything, does it? There's no sign in between the 3 and the x, so we don't know what relationship it has. Right? Wrong. Here's the thing. In algebra, you don't usually write down a symbol for multiplication. You write symbols for addition, subtraction, and division, but not usually multiplication. Because look at this. X, Y, and Z, or X, Y, and Z, the X is usually written like this, so you can also write it like this or any other style, it's up to you. y, and z. These three are the most commonly used variables. Now can you see a problem here? If I compare the x to the multiplication sign and then the multiplication sign to the letter x, you can see a big problem. These three look nearly the same, which is exactly why we exclude the multiplication sign from all instances of algebra. Because we don't want to confuse a variable with an operator or another variable. Oh yeah, and by the way, variables can be capital or lowercase. It's pretty simple. So, this 3x, since the 3 and x are linked together in one term, basically 3x just means 3 times x. So it's x plus 3 times x, or x plus x plus x plus x. Now as you know, multiplication is repeated addition, and in this case we have 4 terms of x being added to each other, and so we can conclude that this whole total is 4x. Okay? So to put it simply, x plus 3x is equal to 4x. Now let's make it even simpler. Instead of going through this whole spiel of a process, how about we just take the x value, or right over here, and then just add a 1. If there's no number behind the x, then that means there's only one of the x. And in this case, if the terms are like, you can just add the numbers. So 1x plus 3x is equal to 4x, because 1 plus 3 is 4. Simple, isn't it? Now let's give a different scenario. 1x times 3x. Or you could also write it as 1x times bracket 3x, or 1x dot 3x, mind you the dot has to be in the middle, or just this, 1x bracket 3x. Those all are forms of multiplication in algebra, though this is the one that you'll be seeing the most often. Well, not in this beginner unit, but soon enough, when we get to things like quadratics and factorization. Now here's the thing. Instead of doing this normally, let me show you something. Instead of multiplying these two like you normally would, we have to multiply the number with the number and the letter with the letter. That's what we have to do. Multiply the number with the number and the letter with the letter. So then, in total, we're just multiplying this with this. 1 times 3 is 3, and x times x, if you multiply any value or variable by itself, it's just that value squared, so 3x squared. That is our answer. So now that we've covered basically all that you have to know about basic algebra, let's move on to the actual topic, simplification. Now what does simplification even mean? Simplification just means that you are turning a gigantic, complicated expression into its simplest form. It doesn't matter whether the simplest form is really big or really small. It could be massive, or it could be just one thing, one term. But it only matters if this formula cannot be turned into something smaller. If you make any change to it, or even an entire process to it, and it makes the formula bigger, you have not simplified the formula. But if it does make it smaller, then you have simplified the formula. Mind you, some formulas require multiple operations or multiple processes to be done to them before they can be simplified. Now let's move on to some practice problems. First of all, let's simplify a plus Let's try to simplify. A plus 3ab minus 4ba. Now, how would you simplify this? Well, most people who are just starting out in algebra would say that you can't. You can't simplify this because there is no like terms. All of these terms are unlike, right? Wrong. Some of these terms are like actually. Those terms being these two. Mind you, here's an important rule in algebra that will save you tons of marks. The sign in front of the value or term is part of that term. So that doesn't mean that minus 4ba is a term 4ba. Minus 4ba in and of itself is the term. So in this case, these two are like. How, you may ask? How is AB and BA like? Well, here's the thing. AB and BA are basically the exact same thing, because if you multiply one value with another, you get the same value as multiplying the other value with the first value. For example, if I multiply 3 by 5, I get 15. But if I multiply 5 by 3, I still get 15. So in this case, these two are like. So 3 minus 4 is minus 1. So in this case, it's A minus AB. Very simple, actually. See? So it's A minus AB. Now then, let's move on to something a bit more complex than what we've already done. Simplifying algebraic expressions with brackets inside of them. This is something that I see many students fail at. And granted, I have failed for it I have fallen for it before. I have lost tons of marks in some mock exams just because I forgot to simplify. But have no fear, I have grown past that, and you will too with my help. So here's the thing. Algebraic expressions with brackets aren't actually that hard. I actually showed you some before. That x times 3x. Remember this? Yeah, pretty simple. But actually, we don't actually call this simplification. We usually call it expanding brackets. So let's take a brief dip in this topic before going out and ending off the video, because this topic is something else and it'll be covered in the next video in detail. But for now, let's take a brief dip in the topic. A very brief one. So let's say that you have a value 3 times x, not times, plus y, let's say 2y, minus 3z. Now what are you gonna do here? What exactly would you do here, right? So basically what you're gonna do is you're gonna want to multiply the 3 with the x, the 3 with the plus 2y, and the 3 with the minus 3z. As I said before, the sign is part of the term. So 3 times x is 3x because multiplication signs aren't shown. 3 times 2y is 3 times 2 times y. 3 times 2 is 6. So we get plus 6y because plus is the sign there. And plus 3 times plus 2 is plus 6. Now, 3 times minus 3. Plus and minus multiplied together make a minus, so we know this is going to be a minus value, a negative value. And 3 times minus 3 is the same as 3 times 3, but put a minus sign in front. And 3 times 3 is 9. And since there is no other variable to multiply, we get 9z. So we have the final answer of this is 3x plus 6y minus 9z. Now, I'm sorry to end this video off here, but we will cover this topic, expanding brackets, in more detail in the next video. For now, I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe, stay curious, and keep watching for more. Goodbye.
Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe for more fun lessons. Stay curious and keep learning. See you in the next lesson.